in honor of former Browns center and 3-time Pro Bowler, but he was not a Pro Bowler for the Browns, Shaun O'Hara. Welcome into the 60th episode of Cleveland Sports Realm. I am Kevin alongside my good friend and co-host Jerome. He's here every week. And then to my right, your left, that's going to be our friend Robby Becker, diehard Cleveland sports fan. Actually works internally for the Cleveland Guardians, but we will not be discussing that due to insider trading issues. But Robby, how you doing?
Yeah, good to be here, guys. I've been talking about wanting to come on for a while, and appreciate you nixing the Guardians for this week so I can keep my job.
That's right. That's right. We appreciate you telling us beforehand that may be an issue. Jerome, how are you doing this evening? It's Tuesday evening. Just quick housekeeping here. Tuesday evening, December 23rd, 2 days before the big man comes down the chimney. Jerome, how we doing?
I'm doing okay. I can't complain. I'm hanging in there. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I can't complain. We had a big time weekend of college football. Another big time Browns game on Sunday. I think it went a little bit differently than we all had anticipated it to. Same result that we were anticipating, but different with how we thought it was going to happen. Do you want to start with college football this week, or do we want to kind of dive right into the Browns, you think?
Let's start with the college football.
All right. You want to lead us off there, big guy?
Yeah, let's start with that. I think the best game of the weekend last weekend happened on Friday night. That was 9 Alabama beating number 8 Oklahoma. The rest of the games, the Miami-Texas A&M game was decent.
Yep.
It just wasn't like the apple of people's eye, right? Like, it was a slow-scoring slog of a game versus Alabama and Oklahoma had a lot of good stuff going on. Oklahoma jumps out to this big-ass lead, and they kind of blow it. And honestly, you and Landon were right, our previous guest, because I thought Oklahoma would be able to hold them off at home. They were not, and I guess Alabama could be saying they're proving the haters wrong, including Tua in this room, because we both said time and time again they didn't belong, and they get in there as a 3-loss team, and they move forward. So I guess congratulations, Roll Tide Roll, and that's that.
Yeah, and they're going to end up obviously facing the Indiana Hoosiers, led by the Heisman winner and potential number 1 overall pick, Fernando Mendoza. So Bama's, obviously they overcame that deficit from the Sooners. I was actually at a work Christmas party for the start of this game, and I had really thought about putting some money on the Alabama money line, and then Oklahoma got up to that 17-0 lead, and I remember being like, thank God I didn't put money on the Alabama money line, which I should have done. But yeah, the end of that game was very interesting. Oklahoma is one of those teams that seems to always be in the playoff mix. Even when the playoffs were at 4 teams, Oklahoma had made the playoffs a few times. Did you know they're now 0-5 when it comes to the college football playoff?
I was unaware of that, but wow.
Yeah, so, I'm going to be a little bit of a jerk here as a Notre Dame fan here. Notre Dame gets this reputation of always making the playoffs and losing, so we shouldn't see Notre Dame anymore. Oklahoma is exactly who everybody thinks Notre Dame is. They're that prestigious program, that prestigious name, that you give them a shot and then they choke it away, and they had a 2.5 touchdown lead to start out this game at home, and you blow it. If you're an Oklahoma Sooners fan, you have to ever wonder if you're honestly going to get over that hump of ever winning a playoff game. Because if this past weekend wasn't it, I don't know when it's going to be for them.
I also think the stigma's erased now because for Notre Dame, because they did get to the title last year. They did fall to the Buckeyes and all that, but they got there. So you got to give the team credit for at least getting there. At least they got out of the first round, huh? Yep. Robby, your thoughts on all this?
What's kind of funny, Kevin, you brought up the 0-5 Oklahoma. I saw a graphic on social media, and it had all the teams that made the CFP and their coaches' records in the CFP, and almost all of them were first-time coaches, first time in the college football playoffs. And then you had the ones that had been in it were 0-5. You had a 1-3 or something in there, and then you had Ryan Day sitting with a winning record in the CFP, and it just goes to show what. We're not talking about Ohio State right now, but right. Oklahoma, a program that's considered very prestigious, very good, one of many who just can't really win the playoff games.
Yeah, well, it is interesting, too, because they have a pretty good coach and a coach that's been around college football for a while and led a great Clemson defense. I don't know. It's Venables, right?
Brett Venables.
Brett Venables. I was blanking on the last name for some reason. But led a very good defense at Clemson. And we talked a little bit about it last week, Jerome, with Landon here, that Oklahoma, we're so used to them not having a defense that it was weird that we were talking about going into that game with 2 great defenses and 2 kind of suspect offenses outside of the quarterbacks, really, because Simpson and Mateer have been good this year. Yeah, it was a very, very weird game, and a game that you seem to never really be able to predict, because it seemed as if when one side gained the momentum, they just like let the momentum slip away from them. And then as soon as Alabama got that lead from Oklahoma, it seemed like they were just kind of playing catch up. One team score, other team score, and then obviously at the very end, Alabama ends up winning by 10. And I think they pose a huge threat to Indiana right now. And kind of going off of what I said last week, Alabama's a team that I just trust. I know Nick Saban's not there. I just trust that Alabama, if they are represented in the playoff, is going to win a playoff game and potentially make a run, because that's what I've seen my entire life. So I actually expect Alabama to give Indiana a pretty good game. And I know we're not going to go into a huge in-depth preview of the upcoming round, because that's not this upcoming weekend. That's the following weekend. But I think the Hoosiers could potentially be in trouble of really being they're in and they're out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too much into that, too. I'll save all my thoughts on that for next week. I think that I agree with what you said, though. The Hoosiers are in big-time trouble. I'll put it that way. And we'll get into that next week. And then, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then obviously the other big-time game, the other two games that were on the docket, Ole Miss beating Tulane 41-10 and Oregon beating James Madison 51-34, basically kind of how everybody thought those games were going to go. I mean, it took me off guard that JMU scored 34 points in that game.
Well, Oregon called off the dogs at halftime. They absolutely did. They could have really ran that thing up,
right,
fellas.
No, listen, I get it. I'm just saying, when we were looking at the final scores beforehand, I never imagined JMU putting up 34. But you got to keep in mind, Oregon even having backups, that's still D1 talent, Power 4 talent that JMU was able to put 34 up on. So,
but for JMU fans and even the team themselves, they'd probably consider that a win.
Absolutely.
I mean, they came in and, at halftime it didn't look the best, but, those players are going to walk away with all the memories of playing in the college football playoffs when they committed to a school that had likely no chance of getting in. And just remembering, man, we put up 34 against Oregon. You can't take that away from them. It's not the most pretty 34, but, you got to be happy for JMU, for a school like JMU.
100%.
If I was a student there, I'd be, going crazy.
Absolutely. So, but, rounding that off, just, those two games going relatively expected in terms of who would win, and by a pretty sizable margin. And then obviously we can go to that other big game that happened this weekend. Miami, Florida, traveled to Texas A&M, and that game went completely different than I think all three of us had predicted last week. I want to say all three of us picked the Aggies in that game.
Yeah.
And I was pretty confident with that pick. I actually went on record saying that the Aggies would win by double digits in that game. I thought Miami would potentially be looking at a rout. And Miami came to play that game. They went into Kyle Field and they took care of business, and obviously a very low-scoring game, 10-3. Jerome, how do you feel? I know that was a game that you had your eyes on, just with obviously Ohio State was going to face the winner of that game,
right?
And expecting potentially facing Texas A&M, now knowing that you guys will be facing Miami, Florida, in a week and a half from this recording. How do you feel with where you guys stack up with Miami right now?
Oh, let me tell you this. The Kadarius Toney's brother, Malachi, kid's a player.
Yeah.
Wow, was I impressed. And
he was like ACC Freshman of the Year, I want to say.
Yeah, he was. And we landed, expunged some wisdom on him last week, and how good he is. And I think the thing that I was most impressive was with the Miami defense. This was by far the most high-powered offense they played all year. A lot of people had talked about the Marcel Reed kid, potentially draft this, that, the other. That interception he threw at the end of the game was pretty poor, if you ask me. And he stared the guy down, and the Miami DB made a hell of a play. Now, what I do think is, again, the Miami defense really impressed me, but what I've noticed is Miami, I think, is a program that was once a great, proud program. They fell off for a while, but I could say that win completes the idea that Mario Cristobal has brought them back. They are there. They are going to be players. And here's why they're going to be good in the future too, right? That's a school with a lot of money, a lot of rich donors, a lot of NFL guys there. So you got your NIL contract, NIL money. You can sign the best of the best to big-time contracts to come down there and play. So there's one reason they're going to be relevant in this year and beyond. Then, on top of that, all you got to do is recruit your own backyard. There's so much NFL talent that comes out of the Miami-Dade County area, and so you recruit that general area down there in that specific section.
Sector.
Yeah, sector. Thank you. Of Florida, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
and then you got the money to back it up, that's everything they need. So I think Miami's going to give the Buckeyes a little bit of a challenge. The thing is, I think the Ohio State still has way more talent than Miami, and we'll again get into it next week.
Right.
But the thing is, Miami's defense impressed me, sure, but then on the other end, A&M's defense played really well, sure, but Miami still only put up 10 points, which, I mean, that's all they needed for that game. 10 ain't going to work against the Ohio State University.
Yeah, what I loved about that game was I had some friends come up from Columbus to watch this Browns game this Sunday. One of them was a Bills fan, so we had planned this for a while. And we went to a bar to watch this slate of playoff games. And I remember watching this Miami Texas A&M game, and everybody just kept talking about how bad it was. It was 3-3 forever. It was 0-0 forever. Everybody kept going, man, this game is terrible. And all I could think about was a former roommate of ours who absolutely loved defensive matchups.
Yeah.
Oh,
There are some people who would say this was the best game on the slate. They love a good, two defenses going at it, not letting anybody score. So I was just kind of enjoying it. And, every time Miami's kicker would miss a field goal, some, drunk old guy in a bar would point and screen and go, oh, my God, he missed another one.
Yeah.
That was a blast, in my opinion. We look at the other games. They scored 50, 60 points. It was just really cool to see this game just be so goofy as it was and just fun to watch. With that said, as an Ohio State fan, I was a little more scared of A&M than I was Florida. But after that game, I don't want to overlook Florida. They definitely have
Miami, Florida.
Yeah. No, thank you. Not Miami of Ohio. We're not playing them.
No, exactly. And Jerome, I actually want to give you some credit here because at the very beginning of the year, this would have been around week 5 or week 6 of the college football season. Miami had gotten themselves up to rank 2, and we had been sitting not in this studio but a different studio closer to downtown Cleveland. And I had asked you if you actually
The old Archer Park studios.
Correct, and we had discussed whether we thought the Hurricanes were for real this year, right? And I was out on the Hurricanes. I know that they had obviously beaten Notre Dame week 1, but there was nothing in that game that truly stuck out to me that Miami could be a difference maker in any facet of the game that would give any team a scare. So I was out on the Hurricanes. And you told me you thought that they were for real. You doubled down on it in the studio at that time, and you said, no, the Hurricanes are for real. They're going to at least win a playoff game this year. I was like, they might be in the playoffs, but they're not going to win a game. And I got to give you some kudos there, brother, because you were spot on the Miami-Florida pick here. Now, what sucks for Miami is that they're gonna face who I believe, and I said this last week, to be the best college football team in the entire country. I know they obviously lost to Indiana. Still think Ohio State's more talented on the offensive side, defensive side. I think you could argue about the head coach right now, who's better. I think obviously Ryan Day has more talent to work with. I just think what Curt Cignetti's done there has been absolutely unbelievable. So I don't want to discredit anything and give him a slight to Ryan Day just by that metric. But I just wanted to give you your kudos there, buddy, because you were calling this from week 5.
Well, I appreciate the kudos, and I appreciate you remembering that, because quite honestly, I do remember making that statement, and then they have those ACC Thursday night specials, which have kind of lost their luster ever since the Amazon Prime has taken over the Thursday night NFL game. And I have made that bold declaration, and Miami proceeded to go to Louisville, Kentucky, and lose that following week.
They lost immediately.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I do remember that. Miami kind of, I don't know, they had a weird season. They kind of literally made a giant horseshoe in a sense, because they
kind of what their logo looks like, huh?
Yeah, the U.
The U.
Sure. So they start up here. They start high and mighty. They beat Notre Dame, and they have two kind of, for all intents and purposes, shitty losses in the middle.
Yeah.
And then they, in my opinion, and we'll get there, finish up their season by beating the Aggies, because the season's not going to go past next week.
Yeah, I don't imagine it getting past there as well either. And then obviously, if Ohio State gets past, assuming that they potentially get past Miami of Florida, it looks like they'd be facing Georgia or Ole Miss, whoever the winner of that game is, based off of what I'm looking at right now. So Ohio State, another tough path, and this would be the second year in a row that Ohio State's had an incredibly tough path. I think last year you would say could be, I don't know if we'll see a tougher path for the foreseeable future than Ohio State had to face, because what they had Tennessee to lead off with, and then the 1 seed was Oregon,
Texas,
and then
Notre Dame,
obviously in the championship.
So one other quick thing on this, I just gauging you guys' opinion, and I know it's not on our docket here, but
yep.
I think watching the atmosphere in Norman, Oklahoma on Friday night, can we and I know that it will never happen, but I really wish that the first and second round were at home games, like for stadiums, because that's never going to happen because the Bulls are going to lose all their money, and it's the only thing keeping the bowls relevant, the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Peach Bowl, all that crap.
Especially with all these other teams now, and Notre Dame was the one that started it, but all these other teams opting out of bowl games now.
Right. So it's the only thing that's going to keep that New Year's Six relevant. But boy, if these campus atmosphere playoff games are incredible, and it was all across. Like Oklahoma was the big one that stuck out because they played Alabama, Texas A&M, Kyle Field. You touched on it. Always a tremendous atmosphere. Yep. The 12th man's a real thing. Like ask Johnny Manziel, he'll tell you. And then obviously Oregon. I mean, yeah, they were hyped up and excited, and they were great too. I mean, as hyped as you could be about playing James Madison, and then. Right. Ole Miss, I mean, they were loud and proud down there because they feel like they got something to prove, obviously, with the whole Lane thing we spent ample time on a few weeks ago. First round playoff games, that's great on college campuses. Let's do the second round too. I love the idea. Fellas, it ain't going to happen, though.
Here's the thing, Jerome. All Ohio State has to do is win 1 or 2 regular season games, and they'll probably host a playoff game. I mean, they just did it last year.
Yeah.
So, your chances will come.
Yeah.
They already came.
It was great. Although
it has not come for Georgia yet, though.
No, there were a lot of Vols fans there.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of
Robbie, how do you feel about that?
I see what you're saying, though, because it does kind of stink, like when you see how, corporate and almost professional college football has become now. It's starting to seep into the bowl games and stuff. Obviously the bowls and the major stadiums are going to want their revenue. They're not going to want to do that, but
in the cities too.
Yeah, in the city. It just stinks to see the college kids and the students who don't have a lot of money aren't going to be able to root for their team in a playoff game. How many James Madison kids were able to go to Oregon? Probably not many.
I can't imagine.
And so, it just stinks for that, but that's just kind of the way college football is going. Like lately, it's become very, very, very NFL 2.0. Diet NFL.
What it's turned into, to make a baseball reference and make this full circle, all it is AAA.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think, there's not much that differentiates it. And what it does hurt is the kids who are not going to go to the NFL, right? Because they're not getting NIL deals. They're not getting money. Now, the ones who are good, God bless them, like the top talent, like Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, he's got a $4.5 million deal this year. Those kind of guys, sure, yeah, it's beneficial to them. But like a guy who, the classic story of the 5th-year senior busting ass, like who doesn't go to the NFL, it's just not going to happen as much anymore.
Well, I think what's going to be interesting to see is whether these players start valuing the NIL money or the NFL contract that they could potentially get. And I think we're going to see that first true test of that, honestly, this offseason.
Dante Moore?
But specifically Dante Moore. Yeah, because he's a 21, he's not even 20, he's not even 21 yet. He's not of drinking age yet. He's 20 years old. And by the way, I just found this out today. Did you know he was born in East Cleveland?
Yes, that came out a couple of weeks ago.
I just found out about this.
So now you'll see all the Browns fans banging the table for Dante Moore, just
even,
like Drew Aller.
Even though he went to high school in Detroit.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I mean,
but we are going to see that because he's right now, they're saying potentially not, like it's right now, it's one of those things where they're like, okay, do you prefer Mendoza or do you prefer Moore? And I think if they both declare, you'll start to see one overtake the other one. Obviously, that's typically what happens during the NFL Combine and stuff like that. But right now, that's going to be the first true test because right now it seems almost set in stone that Dante Moore is going to be a top 5 pick. And all of those things.
Sorry.
What's that?
You're seeing a lot of these college football players now finish up their careers. They should be done with their careers, but they get another year, and then they ask for an extra one, and then they apply to get another one. Well, because I think those are the guys that know they're not going pro. They're going to get invited to a practice squad, maybe make it, maybe not, and it's done. The dream is over for them. You're seeing all these guys that are late draft picks just go back.
Right.
And I think that's going to get even like more and more and more prevalent. Everybody's just going to go for like 4 or 5 years.
That's why I think that first true test of this is going to be Dante Moore because he is 20 years old. He's not 22. He's not 23. Like he has 2 to 3 years of remaining eligibility at Oregon. What is he going to do?
Well, and here's the thing that's interesting too is, Robbie, to your point about the 6th and 7th year seniors, a lot of people were very critical of these guys for staying in college for 100 years. And I am too. But then I think of it from their point of view. If somebody's going to give you a bag to play college football for another year and you have no shot, no NFL measurables, height, weight, strength, all that crap that they measure at the combine, right? And you got no shot, and somebody's going to give you $2.5 million to go play quarterback for Grand Canyon or whatever, just some random school, and somebody at Grand Canyon's going to write you a $1 million check. You're never going to see that money in your life again. You're probably going to be selling insurance in a couple of years or something of that
If
nature.
I was a much better high school athlete, you probably would have seen me in college bouncing around between junior colleges and low D1 FCS schools.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe, yeah.
Because why not? Maybe I'll get an AutoZone sponsorship with one of them. I don't know. Why not?
Who would have made out like a bandit with the NIL deals was Troy Smith.
Yeah.
Troy Smith was about 20 years too early to this because
He was the
no
pioneer.
NFL team ever viewed him as a franchise guy, but my Lord, was he amazing in college as
Absolutely.
a
He could have bounced around. He could have let.
Kellen Moore, another one.
Now, I think the bottom line is, like, for guys who are good enough, like, let's say a Dante Moore, who did get a nice bag to go up to Oregon this year. He was at UCLA last year. But UCLA decided that they weren't going to pay Dante Moore, and this is where it's free agency, and they decided that they were going to sign the Tennessee kid. I can never say his last name.
Yeah, it's okay.
Nico. Let's just call him Nico. UCLA decided to pay him a bag. Well, okay, so you're going to go get another free agent quarterback there. So Dante Moore was like, I am a free agent, and Oregon was like, sign us up, and it has worked beautifully.
Yeah, it's worked marvelous for them, absolutely. Moving on from, how lucky are they getting to move on from Dylan Gabriel to Dante Moore?
Can we do the same?
Can we do the same? That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
We might do the same exact thing that Oregon did.
You left me speechless. I mean,
He's speechless.
I don't know if. Never mind. I don't want to be mean to Dylan. It's Christmas. I'm just going to let it go.
You hope Dylan has a good Christmas.
I do. I hope Dylan Gabriel has a really nice Christmas. Spend some time back in Hawaii. No, he probably can't even go to Hawaii because they have to be back. Maybe the family will come out to Cleveland and visit him. Dylan, I hope no chance you listen to this.
The elf on the shelf.
Yeah. He is. God bless you, Dylan. Have a good Christmas.
We put him on the shelf.
Yeah, have a good Christmas, Dylan.
And then
put him on the shelf.
Dylan, piece of advice. Give it up. Go be a coach. You have a really good chance of that. You're going to be a really hell of a coach. This football thing's not working for you. So that leads us to the Browns game, boys.
That was a decent transition, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously the Browns lose 23-20 in Cleveland. Now, Robbie, I actually want to start this segment off with you, buddy, because you were at the game.
Unfortunately.
You were at the game. Tell us the experience there.
Yeah, so for a while now, I've had some friends from Columbus, and one of them is a massive Bills fan, and he made it known early, a few weeks ago, he was coming to this game. He has tailgated. He's broken plastic tables in Buffalo. He wanted to do it in the Muni lot.
Did he?
And yes.
Good.
So with all of us being big Browns fans, we were like, you know what? Absolutely, we'll do that. You come up, stay with me for the weekend. We'll give you the Cleveland Browns Muni lot experience. And truthfully, Buffalo gave Browns fans the Muni lot experience because that tailgate was all blue. Our friend Kyle got us a spot, and then we showed up and tailgated with him. And I'm telling you what, man, the songs that the Bills play to get hyped up, the zebra pants, like it was a Buffalo Bills tailgate, and a few Browns fans decided to crash it. Like that's what actually happened.
Well, so
it was a great time, but I'll tell you what, like Buffalo showed up.
Well, so and I'll get there in a second. We had discussed Saturday night, and I'm going to say this on the air. Happy belated birthday to producer Derek. We all went to his Saturday night birthday dinner.
That's right, we did.
At an establishment that has not given us a cent of money, so we're not going to name it. But we had a very nice dinner.
They're too busy paying my employer.
Yeah.
Right.
So happy belated to producer Derek. Yeah. Anywho, we sat there, and I told you guys were saying 70-30. I go, guys, it's going to be 80-20 tomorrow. And would you come back?
70-30 still,
And would you come back and tell me?
I said 70-30. I didn't want to commit too much, but from what I saw, it was 80-20. I got a text at one point. Someone was watching on TV and said, "What does it look like?" And I took a picture of the crowd, and they were like, "Yeah, that's 80-20."
So if
the Browns anything good, the place booed, and that might have been Browns fans. I don't know.
All right, I just got a notification. So we know how that DK Metcalf was originally suspended.
Yeah,
and he went to appeal it. The appeal was upheld, so his regular season is over. DK Metcalf will not be playing the remainder of the regular season, so we will not see him on Sunday.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, but
that's fine. So we had talked. It was 80-20. So I as I've stayed on this podcast, I go to the game every week. This happened to be the first one I didn't go to. I did a holiday family thing on Sunday, and honestly, I'm very thankful I did. I enjoyed it probably much better than I would have, going to Ralph Wilson West. And I had texted the guy who, sits next to me after the game. He texted me, said, "Hey, we missed you today, yada, yada." I said, "Hey, how was it today?" And he goes, "Dude," he goes, "finding a Browns fan in the crowd today was like finding a needle in a haystack." He goes, "There just wasn't, they weren't there." And, we knew it was going to be like this. Buffalo, I've always said, if there's the two best fan bases in the NFL that are head and shoulders above everybody else, it's Buffalo and Cleveland. And Buffalo's had the benefit of getting Josh, who's changed their fortunes around where they are a legit Super Bowl contender no matter what the roster is. Because, hot take, I don't think the Bills' roster around Josh is that much better than the Browns, but they have Josh.
Right.
That's the difference. Josh makes that much of a difference.
My friend Cam, who's the Bills fan, literally says, he goes, "What I love watching about the Bills these days is no matter how bad or good we're doing, I look up and go, oh my gosh, there's a unicorn on the field."
Right.
And I go, that's kind of what it is. Josh Allen can do it all. Like, he's such a great quarterback who can do it all. And it's, somebody that maybe we could have gotten back in the day, but we went Baker, so it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Exactly right. And I don't think the Bills fans went through it, so it's nice to see them be rewarded. I mean, they went through some quarterback ringers like the J.P. Losman and Trent Edwards and
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor got them. He did break their 21-year player.
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzmagic had a little bit of a hot stretch there. They went through the quarterback ringer too for a while. They got out of it. We're still in it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe, what did you guys think of the number one topic on the show? How'd he do on Sunday? What do we think?
I'll let his number one fan go first.
Yeah. Jerome, you want to go then?
Yeah.
I'll go. Obviously, I've been on record. I'm his biggest critic. I thought Shedeur Sanders played a bad game this past Sunday. 20 of 29, 157 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. There's just a lot of those completions are exactly what we all ripped Dylan Gabriel for. This is something I touched on 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks ago. But it seemed a lot more prevalent this week than in the last few. But it seemed like if he wasn't completing something within 5 yards, he just wasn't even attempting to move the ball down the field. And that's the same thing that we ridiculed Dylan Gabriel for. And if you're not going to be pushing the ball down the field, I can't have you throwing 2 interceptions. So I thought, quite frankly, Shedeur Sanders was basically, I'm not going to blame the entire game on him, but I thought he was over 50% of the reason why we lost that game was due to the quarterback play.
As always, I'm going to have to challenge that. I thought the first interception, it hit Judkins in the hand. You got to catch that.
It was behind him.
But you got to catch that.
So you're running back that's not a receiving back. Running this way and the ball's right here.
It hit him in the hands. He's got to
hit him in the hands, sure, but if you place the ball better, that's not an issue.
Oh my God! All right.
It's not. You can't blame that entire play on Quinshon Judkins.
I agree. It could have been a better throw, but I'm a firm believer, and I don't care who the receiver. I always say, if it hits you in the hands, catch the ball. And I have been on.
It didn't hit him in the numbers, which is where the quarterback's supposed to hit him. I think it's 50-50 blame. I'm not putting it 100% on Sanders. I'm not putting it on Quinshon Judkins. What I'm saying, he's got to catch the ball, but also make it easier on your running back.
True, I guess.
Yeah. With me, unfortunately, Shedeur has his haters, he's got his fans, and unfortunately, I feel like I'm just a Shedeur question mark. After the Titans game, I really liked what I saw and thought he played great. And then, wasn't great against the Bears. And then this game, I agree with Kevin. He was not great. His stats were okay, but when you really look into it, he really did not do a whole lot to impress me. We're at the point right now where the Browns need to figure out, is Shedeur the answer? Is he a franchise quarterback? We can't keep doing did he earn another week? Do we earn another week? We need to figure out where our franchise quarterback is, because we have a top pick in the draft, and we need to know where that's going.
Yeah, which I think if there's 2 weeks remaining in the season and you're questioning whether you have a franchise quarterback, you don't have one.
I also think this, though. The decision whether Shedeur Sanders comes back or not is totally up in the air right now, because nobody knows who's heading the football operations. I think the point of sitting here and debating, well, is Shedeur Sanders going to come back or not? To me, it all depends on who's in charge. That is the key component of this. Like, whether he comes back or not is entirely irrelevant to whether we know who's making the decisions, who's heading the draft, who's coaching the team. And then once we figure that out, then we could sit there and figure out whether Shedeur Sanders is going to be back and as a Browns starting quarterback next year.
I think no matter what, I think whether there's a new regime or if it's the same regime, if the Browns are picking in the top 2 and Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore does come out and both of them come out into this draft, I think no matter what, no matter the regime in place, I think they're taking one of those quarterbacks.
Right now, I disagree.
Which means I think Shedeur Sanders is not going to be here because I don't think he's gonna make it easy for him to stay here with them drafting.
Like,
a quarterback.
I do think Shedeur is a talented guy. Like, he shows flashes where so many guys like him enter the league and do absolutely nothing, and the ride's over. But Shedeur sometimes has a moment where you think, okay, he's not done yet. But I don't think it's with us, in my personal opinion. Like, I want the next franchise quarterback, and when I watch Shedeur, he gives us the best chance to win. There's no doubt about that. Like, I do think he gives us the best chance to win, but I don't want to play week to week. What are we doing? I want the future decided right here, right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Robbie, because, Jerome, I have said that before. I do think Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback than Dillon Gabriel. I have said that. I think he gives us the best chance to win on Sunday, and he's more fun to watch. He's more entertaining to watch. But I don't want, because he's more entertaining than Dillon Gabriel, I don't want us to be like, okay, he's more entertaining than Dillon Gabriel. We've got our guy. That's such a low standard to be like, okay, let's give him another year. And I'm also going to say, franchises are never in prime positions to take quarterbacks, hardly ever. And when you are, you have to do it. Because like I said last week, if the Browns just fiddle around and Shedeur Sanders is below average and they take the tackle you want and they take the receiver that you want and they're 7-10, 8-9, and they're picking at 12 or 13, you're not in the market for a top quarterback in the following draft. And then you got to start trading the earth, the moon, and the stars for your next guy, which we've already done.
Yeah. Listen, I understand what you're saying. I know you want them to take a quarterback. I get all that.
Well, not just a quarterback. I want them to take their guy. Like, if they don't believe in either of these two guys, then don't take them. I just think with the scouting reports that I have seen and from what the experts have said, you have to believe that, because everything that we're told basically up until this point or up until the draft of where prospects are ranked, basically with Shedeur Sanders being like the one and only outlier. If you're a first-round talent, typically they are drafted within the first round and a half to 2 rounds. And if you're a quarterback and you have a late first-round grade, you're typically in the top 5 to top 10 because quarterbacks are pushed up the board and the league is built for that.
Yeah, listen, I understand what you're saying. I just think the Browns are so, and I made this point last week, and I'm still on the same train. They are so talent deficient right now that I don't think putting a rookie quarterback in this kind of situation makes it. It's not going to benefit anybody. Like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's, and I'm not calling your point lazy, even though that's how it's going to come off, but I do think it's a relatively lazy point. Because when has any team in the top 3 that needs a quarterback had a team already built?
Right.
Yeah,
you have to take.
If I could jump in for a second.
Go on.
This exact conversation is one I've been having a lot lately. I was talking to a Bills fan this week, and I was talking to a Patriots fan this weekend, and it kept coming back to the draft. Like, what are we looking for the draft next year? And that conversation comes up all the time. Like, do the Browns take a quarterback? And people say, well, there's so many other needs. We desperately need a tackle. We desperately need a wide receiver. That's true. But if we draft a quarterback super early in the first round, that doesn't mean we have to play them next year.
Precisely.
We don't have to. If it's Fernando Mendoza,
I brought that point up last week.
We don't have to play them next year. Baker Mayfield didn't play as soon as we drafted him in the first round, fourth pick. First pick. So you can use that early pick and then use the rest of the picks. That we have 7 more rounds to go. And I think it's a very deep wide receiver class. I would love a top wide receiver this year, but it actually is one of the deepest wide receiver classes it's been in a while. I'd be okay waiting a little bit for a wide receiver.
Well, and if we're worried about you've got to take an offensive tackle and a receiver, sure, then do it. I mean, you have a late first-round pick, and remember what we did with our early second-round picks last year, Carson Schwessinger and Quinshon Judkins. That does not mean that when you take a quarterback in the top 3, it doesn't mean that you're not going to try to fill those other holes later. We got a beast starting linebacker and a what looked to be a beast starting running back at the top of the second round last year.
And the draft is fluid.
What's that?
The draft is fluid. Like, the draft is not black and white. It's not yes and no. I feel like you have to play the board. You have to play what other teams are giving you. You have to play the talent slides. And I do like this, like you say, see good player, get good player, best available player. But I think what you have to do is play a little bit of both. You draft for need and see good player, get good player, or best player available. Because if the best player available is a position you don't necessarily need, but like you said, if we desperately need a tackle, we end up drafting Jedrick Wills, and he's a bust.
Yeah.
And then we're double screwed because there's players that are amazing, and we pass on them because we need that position necessarily. But
they just took the wrong guy.
Well, I also think if you have
that's
players graded, relatively similarly, and if this is the Browns per se, and you have a running back you have graded very high, and you have an offensive lineman, or let's say even a defensive end opposite of Myles Garrett could potentially be a need, and you have them ranked similarly, then you take the one that you need,
right.
over the one that you might have graded slightly higher. But
right.
I don't know.
To me, I just think that they're like, again, and I know you said you disagree, whatever. I just don't see the point of shoving up another quarterback up in here and just getting back into the hamster wheel that they've been in since 1999.
Well, this is exactly what Robbie and I are saying, though, is that he does not have to play immediately. Like, maybe you do go out and you sign not a franchise, sign a veteran quarterback.
Kirk Cousins type.
Maybe you trade for a veteran quarterback or something. Maybe do exactly what you did in 2018 and trade a mid-round pick for a veteran quarterback to start the season off for you, and then take your guy in the top 3 or wherever your pick ends up being. Like this, it's not. When you take him, you don't have to play him immediately. And when you take him, it doesn't mean that you're ignoring that you need a receiver. It doesn't mean that you're ignoring that you need an offensive tackle. It's acknowledging, hey, we don't have our franchise guy. We see a guy that we truly believe can be a top 10 quarterback in this league and potentially lead us to the promised land. And you're gambling on that. And you take him, and whether he's ready or not, then you make your decision on whether you play him.
When I was talking to the Patriots fan, this past couple days, this last weekend, I mentioned, they're a perfect example of they took Drake May. They didn't have a great offensive line or not much else around them. And look at that. They got back to relevance. The Bengals were terrible. They took Joe Burrow. They're back to relevance.
They were in the Super Bowl the year after they drafted Joe Burrow.
What's another one? There's another one that's slipping me right now.
Jaden Daniels.
The Commanders were terrible. They took Jaden Daniels. I think you can.
The Bears were a lost cause. They took Caleb Williams 2 years later. They're going to win the NFC North.
People argue, a quarterback won't change that. And it's like, I can name 3 teams where that did change for them. They took a great quarterback, and it worked for them.
Look at Buffalo. We were just talking about them.
I think for me though, and this is where I would not move off of Shedeur Sanders. He's shown me enough flashes and glimpses that I feel like if the Browns trade him away, he's gonna go be a star somewhere else, and then it's gonna be look like the Baker situation all over.
The thing is, we say this about first round picks though, is typically what we say this about. They shouldn't move on from them. We've only seen a year of them. We've seen enough flashes to maybe give him another year. You have nothing invested in Shedeur Sanders. You have nothing invested in him. They have no inclination to start him for another year. They have nothing. They just traded ahead. They took a quarterback ahead of him, and then they were either pressured by Barry or Haslam to trade up for Shedeur for the jersey sales and names, and obviously he's a talented kid who fell in the draft. But they don't have invested into him into what, let's say, the Cardinals had invested in Josh Rosen before they moved on from him after a year.
Yeah, but
that's a huge decision. He was a top 10 pick, and then you had the number 1 overall pick and really had to make that decision. This is a 5th rounder, and you're about to go 3-14 potentially. You should not exclude quarterback off of your draft board based off of that, in my opinion.
See, but I also think it doesn't matter where he was drafted. If you had a guy who could have been a franchise quarterback, and then you trade off of him, and he becomes a superstar somewhere else, it doesn't matter what you drafted in him. You still punted on having a franchise quarterback.
Can I ask you something really quick, buddy? What would you say has been Shedeur Sanders' best game so far?
I would probably say the Titans game. Even though they lost.
Which is fair. That's okay. You can play a great game and lose. We saw Josh McCown do it plenty of times. You can play a great game and lose. My problem with that is that he barely completed 50% of his passes that game, and a third of his yards came off of 2 completions, one of which was a 60-yard screen pass.
Right. I also think that, no matter what you do, if you you could always move the goalposts, right? You could always if you take this out, if you take that out, at the end of the day, that was the stats. So
sure. I mean, exactly. He barely completed half of his passes.
Right.
And he got lucky with 2 big plays. And yeah, he gives you the big play ability. We've seen it. I mean, Isaiah Bond, they seem to hit on that deep post pattern once a game. They didn't hit it on this in this last game against Buffalo, but they seem to be able to get Isaiah Bond over the top at least once a game. And yeah, Shedeur Sanders throws a beautiful deep ball that still does not excuse the amount of time he holds onto the ball, the useless scrambling he has outside of the pocket, and some of his inaccuracies that I do feel he's not as accurate as he was highly touted or as he was touted coming out of college.
And I want to say about your knocks on Shedeur, I kind of saw it firsthand in the Bills game. A big knock people have been saying is it's not Shedeur's fault. The offensive line is really bad, and they are. That offensive line is one of the worst we've ever had. I'm seeing Shedeur have a lot of time to throw, especially that Bills game. Like, he's dropping back and he's staring down Harold Fannin. It feels like he's staring him down for like 5-6 seconds, and then he'll start scrambling. And he will take off and get a couple yards on a scramble every now and then.
He had a few very good scrambles.
Yeah, he had a couple very good scrambles. That he is a very talented guy, clearly, but he just sometimes he stares down his receivers too much, and he does have a lot of time to throw. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he gets blown up, and that offensive line is bad. But I'm saying you put a lot of other veteran top quality quarterbacks in that position, they have enough time to throw. They're probably going to complete a lot more passes.
Yeah, and if you're given 3 to 4 seconds, that ball's got to be out. I mean, obviously,
it's got to be out
he'll
quicker.
start moving after that, which if there's nobody open and you have time to scramble, like, please do. I'm not telling you to not scramble out of the pocket.
That stuff Shedeur can improve on. I'm not completely out on the guy. I think he's talented, but I don't like seeing all these like mistakes. These issues he has coming into the draft are still prevalent here. He's got 2 more weeks. Maybe he cleans it up. Maybe he learns. But week after week, he's committed to just holding on to the ball, trying to make something magic happen. And sometimes he does, but no quarterback has ever been successful playing like that, like so risky.
Well, I think and some of those are fair points. I definitely think that. He does take 1 or 2 bad. I've said this time and time again. 1 or 2 bad sacks a game. I think he's definitely gotten better with the holding on to the ball as long. Now, what I will agree with you guys is, and I don't know if it's for whatever reason, he seems to trust Harold Fannin more than like anybody else on planet Earth. Like, when he's in a desperate situation and they go for it on 4th down, like, he's definitely looking 44's way. And I don't know if that's that he doesn't trust any other receivers. We've also have talked, and I think it's a fair point, time and time again, like, the receiver room sucks, and that's fair too. So he's not going to trust any of those guys. He's connected like once in a blue moon on a pass play to Jerry Jeudy, but like, he definitely doesn't seem to trust Jerry Jeudy by any means. And it's hard to, because he drops the ball a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say. I mean, when your number 1 receiver is dropping the ball every other time that you throw to him, it's hard to get that confidence built in him. Which I will say, even after that that post pattern he hit to Jeudy against Tennessee, it was nice to see Sanders meet him in the end zone, get down, and that was after their whole conflict they had the previous week. Yeah,
I'll say this, like, maybe I'm still have the blinders on. Like, I've seen enough that I definitely want to start with him as the quarterback next year. I don't know if that's going to happen. Like I said again, I think it's all irrelevant and hogwash until we find out who's running the football operations. It doesn't matter.
All right, gun to your head. Take your heart out of it entirely. Do you think he's a Brown next year?
I have no idea. I'm like,
if this current regime is in place, is he a Brown next year?
Absolutely.
If an other regime is in place and the Browns have a top 2 draft pick, is he here next year?
I think it all depends on who it is.
I don't think there's a shot in hell.
I think it all
honestly.
I think that, like we keep saying, he's a talented guy. Those don't grow on trees. Like, there could be a general manager who comes in here and is like, you know what? That's who I want to be my quarterback. Like, think about it. Like, it'd be Andrew Berry did it with Baker, because Baker was coming off a shit year in 2019. And yeah, I know Andrew Berry was here, but he was low in the pecking order when they drafted Baker. Like, if the Browns, like, this would be a similar scenario, right? Because Baker came off a dog shit year in 2019, and the Browns were like, yeah, he's our guy. Like, this could absolutely take place again, where somebody's like comes in and is like, yeah, Shedeur Sanders is our starting.
Yeah,
quarterback.
but at this point, we're comparing a 5th-round pick who's had half a season of starts to a former number 1 overall pick who was second in Rookie of the Year voting, coming after a bad year. Like, I think it's two completely different. I mean, I see your point where it's relatively the same, where they're like having a bad year, but with Baker, we had already seen a good year out of him, and he was a number 1 overall pick. There was a lot invested into him at that point. I'm just going back to the point. They don't have anything invested in Shedeur Sanders at all. They don't have any money invested into him, really. They don't really have any draft capital outside of the draft pick that they spent on him in the 6th rounder they gave up to move up for him, which the 6th rounder in NFL terms when it comes to trades is virtually nothing.
Right, that's true.
So, I mean, they don't have anything to motivate them to say, hey, we need to keep this going. And like I've said on previous episodes, I don't want to spend too much time on it either. Like, the criticism with every decision you make comes with keeping him. Like, everything the Browns do, they get ripped for. Is it in Shedeur Sanders' best interest or not? Everything they do. And this was the team that was willing to take the chance on him. There were 31 other teams that didn't pick him, and they're in the free and clear of all this. They don't have to deal with the people that are like, oh, they didn't believe in Shedeur Sanders. But the Browns, who moved up to take him, have to deal with the reperecussions of whether they believe in him or not.
Well, I mean, again, and I've said this time and time again. And
I don't know anyone who would sign up for that.
And I'll maintain it. Shedeur Sanders is crazed fans, and they go far beyond me. Like, I'm in the grand scheme of things, I'm like average on the Shedeur fan scale. Like,
the problem is it's not even the fans. It's the media that's pushing this. It's not even the fans. Like, they're spinning circles to make it seem like the Browns are punishing Shedeur Sanders for something. Like,
now,
there are articles coming out of this. These aren't just like random fans that are tweeting. There are articles about Shedeur Sanders being sabotaged in Cleveland when they were the team that took the chance on him. When Shedeur Sanders was the one that told Philly, hey, I'm good, I don't want to go there. When he was the one that told Baltimore, hey, you know what, I don't want to go there. He handpicked Cleveland.
Yeah, he did.
And Cleveland's getting ripped for taking him.
Yeah. Well,
think about that.
Like I said, the Browns, they've made plenty of mistakes, and they'll probably continue to make plenty of mistakes. But again, the media, and like, that's the thing. Like, it's really hard to blame Shedeur Sanders for all that circus around him, because when he goes to the podium, obviously I listen to everything he said. He says all the right things. Like, the local media continuously tries to get him to take shots at the coaching staff. He won't do it. The local media continuously tries to get him to take shots at Judy. Won't do it.
Sure.
Like, he's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things according to what the coaches tell us, and what people in the building say. He's first one in, last one out. All that crap you want with the quarterback. Like, so like the people, the crazy circus around him that from the media, and the media trying to get him to basically misstep and F up, for a better term, at the podium. Like, he's a smart kid. He's not buying into any of that crap. And I think for the circus that's around him, was, you just pointed out, and it's true, is absolutely insane. It doesn't seem to be affecting him, at least publicly.
But that's not. It affects the Browns, though, and that's what another regime would have to sign up for. Go ahead.
You're right in the fact that, when you play My Career and you have your two responses, and one is obviously a very bad decision. He's not picking the bad decision when he speaks up at the podium. He's not throwing his team, coaches under the bus. But some of the things he says and does just kind of confuse me. And like today, they asked him, what is he going to do moving forward to win 2 more wins and get the Browns, back on the board in the win column? And his only response was, "I'm not God." And I understand what he's trying to say, because then he'll elaborate and say, I don't make all the decisions, isn't that yet? And I get that, but I can't think of many other teams whose quarterbacks are speaking like that. Like, he doesn't pick the wrong decision, but he just kind of says things that I just think, okay, well, other teams' quarterbacks aren't really answering like this. Like, I don't know why he feels like he needs to answer like that, and he kind of smirks after he says it, because I think he knows that that's going to be a good click.
Right.
So I just don't understand like that. Like, I'm not saying he's making all the wrong decisions at the podium, but like, I'm just a little confused by his antics up there.
And not going to spend a ton of time on this either, but just like, obviously the miming in the interviews, and then obviously something happened during that pre-draft process. So I can't say that Shedeur Sanders is completely, like, his hands aren't clean of his whole situation of whether a team believes in him or not, and the questions that come with him. he's not, his hands aren't clean to that. Like there's clearly something that happened in the pre-draft process that made every single NFL team wary of taking him in the first 2 days of the draft. Because even teams that don't need quarterbacks will take a shot at somebody in the third round if they believe they're talented. Teams that don't need quarterbacks. So if you're telling me a first-round talent is there in the third round and teams aren't taking him, I'm going to question his character, which I think clearly came off in the interview process. And even at the combine, they would ask questions. How do you deal with the pressure? He'd say, have you met my dad? I grew up with pressure. It just comes off very, very arrogant. Like, just say, hey, like to Robby's point, what are you going to do to try to get the Browns 2 wins? Just say, I'm gonna go out there and play my the best football that I can. Wow, that took me a whole 2 seconds of brain power to come out with that one sentence that doesn't stir up an article, doesn't stir up any controversy. I'm sick of the Shedeur Sanders experiment. I've been sick of it since we drafted him in the 5th round. Sick of the diva quarterback. I said it last week. That's who we continue to go after.
He is a diva quarterback, though. Like
do you know a quarterback with their head on their shoulders that would mouth their answers to reporters? No, you don't. So he's a diva.
I don't.
He hasn't reached, he hasn't reached the Odell Beckham wide receiver status of diva yet.
I don't know. He's got that absurd bright diamond chain he's wearing during the game too. I mean, he's still flashing off his imaginary watch. Like the guy's more obsessed with the jewelry line he's going to come out with in 3 years when he's out of a job than he is forgetting the Browns these last 2 wins.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're also coming from a point of view where you have openly admitted you were never a fan, you never liked him.
And you've openly admitted that you're his biggest supporter, so I can counter it with that one.
Well, I just said I disagree with that. I said I find myself to be very average on the Shedeur Sanders fan scale. I'm not a Shedeur super fan.
Give me a break. Did you see the shirt you're wearing in the studio? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
I'm a big Shedeur Sanders fan, but I'm not on Twitter, attacking everybody on planet Earth that's not Shedeur Sanders.
You're not donating to Colorado's NIL.
I don't know about your burner accounts. I don't know your usernames on those.
No, it's not me. Listen,
I'm messing, buddy.
So for you to say you're sick of the experiment is not a shock to anybody. And for me to still want to be involved in the experiment, I'm still full in. I've seen enough that I want to move forward and onward with Shedeur Sanders.
Okay, take the Shedeur Sanders name away.
What?
Take the Shedeur Sanders name away. Look at his stats. Tell me he's a 5th rounder, and tell me you want to start next year.
Yeah, I do.
That's insane.
I do. I'm all in.
That's insane.
So looking at next year, I said this the other day. Looking forward now, the Browns are 3-12. We have the 3rd overall pick. In front of us are the Giants and the Raiders, who play each other.
Correct.
So if we lose out, which I know we have different thoughts on that, I think they're going to lose out. We would be guaranteed 2nd overall pick.
We'd be guaranteed top 2.
It would either be the Giants or the Raiders ahead of us. In those scenarios, I'm thinking quarterback. Kevin has gotten me on the Fernando Mendoza train. We could be wrong. I'm not sitting here and claiming that we know everything about football. I wanted Sam Darnold over Baker and Allen that one year. So right. I'm wrong sometimes. But I've watched Mendoza beat Ohio State. Was it only by 3? Yes, but he put the ball where it needed to be, didn't turn it over. He just has that very pro style.
He threw an interception.
Did he?
Yeah.
I'm not a genius. I'm an idiot. But for Mendoza just has like that very.
I think there's a calmness about him too.
Very professional. You give him a playbook, he'll know exactly how to run it to perfection. That just seems to be, And the kid is putting his Heisman Trophy on his LinkedIn. Like when these weirdo quarterbacks come up out of college, they just end up being great. Like he just has all the very intangibles to be great, and he could not be, but. Something about him just strikes me. Like if we didn't get him, I'd be very sad. And I do think he's going to be a Raider if they're ahead of us. I think the Raiders are honed in on him. So my question to you two would be, the Browns end up behind the Raiders or the Giants. I guess give me either scenario. Do you trade up to guarantee Fernando Mendoza? I would like to get him. I would say almost any cost, but I hate the idea of giving up both our first rounds this year. I do think one of those has got to go to a player. I don't want to give up both first for him, but I can be convinced.
I would say depending on cost. I mean, if you're moving up from 2 or 3 to 1, there's no shot I'm giving an extra first rounder.
Right.
Like I'm not doing what the Jaguars did last year and moving up 3 spots and giving up a future first and an early second round pick. Like I'm not, to Jerome's point of us being talent deficient, like at that point, no, I would not trade up that much, but I would, depending on cost, yeah, like I would do something similar like what the Bears did in 2017, and they moved up 1 spot with the 49ers. They traded from 3 to 2, and I want to say they gave up a second and 2/3. It was something relatively similar to that. That I would contemplate, but even then, like if it's our early second rounder this year, like I would probably be out just because I do want to attack other positions other than quarterback. And if you're at 2, like I've said before, I do want to watch more Dante Moore to convince myself one way or the other on him. But if I'm high on him, then I would take Moore there. If not, I think you have a lot of options to potentially trade down again like you did last year. Trade down 4 or 5 spots, gain another first-round pick. You still get an elite talent. There's not like the guy on the offensive line that I've seen this year in the draft, and I'm not a huge fan. If you don't have an offense already built, I'm not a fan of taking a receiver in the top 4. I do love Carnell Tate. I don't think he's a top 5 talent. I think he's like a top 15 talent. I do love him, though. But I would take maybe a Downs or maybe move down. You grab your tackle, gain an extra first, and you get a receiver later. Like I think the Browns, if they do lose out, I do think there's actually a lot of light at the end of the tunnel to be able to potentially rebuild this relatively as quick as the Commanders did under Jaden Daniels' first year, or as quick as the Patriots just did. To be completely honest with you, like if you get that quarterback and you hit on an offensive lineman, that's basically all the Patriots did, and they had an elite defense, and then they grabbed veteran receivers.
Because they got Will Campbell the year after they got May, right?
Yeah.
The year after, yep.
Like that's something we could do. Like I'm not saying that's the best path forward.
Well, that's like you don't. This is not going to be a 1-year turnaround time, whether we keep Shadur Sanders or not. That's why I want to be like, if there's a guy here, take him, and maybe we have a great team in 4 or 5 years, like or 3-4 years maybe. Like Shadur Sanders, Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore. If any of those 3 are starting next year, like this team is still not going to be 10-7 or better and in the playoffs, in my opinion. Like you're still going to be looking at an average to below average, potentially horrible football team, depending on how that year goes. Like, I don't think you're looking at us sneaking into the playoffs next year under any of those circumstances.
Yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I kind of answered it with the previous segment. Yeah, I have zero interest in trading up for Fernando Mendoza, at all.
And Jerome, this isn't to put you on the spot. I don't mean to do this if I am. But, like, if it's not quarterback, I know you obviously want to look at an offensive tackle or a wide receiver. If you're at pick 3, we'll just say both the quarterbacks are off the board and you're looking at every other position in the draft, which would be, in this case for you, this would be best case scenario.
Oh, absolutely.
This would be best case scenario.
For sure.
Is there anybody in particular that you have your eye on? And I know that you've said offensive tackle and receiver, so that's kind of what I'm expecting, but if it's something else and you have your eye on a different player, I'm all ears about that too.
Well, no. I would absolutely just, if you think you could get one of those, you can do the Andrew Berry of last year and go from 2 to 5 or whatever, and then you could go out and get one of your guys.
That's what I would do if there was no quarterback taken. That's
absolutely
exactly what I would do.
Because I don't think, to your point, there's no Will Campbell in this draft. There's no Joe Thomas in this draft. There's no that guy.
There'll never be a Joe Thomas.
Honestly, even there's not a Calvin Johnson type receiver prospect. There's not even, and I know he hasn't had a good first 2 years in the league, but this is the only receiver I've held up to the Calvin Johnson standard. But there's not like a Marvin Harrison Jr. where it seems like he's going to blow your socks off, which, by the way, I don't know if I've gone on record saying this on the podcast. I think that's a perfect buy low candidate if you want to go after a receiver this offseason. I don't think his value will ever be lower.
That's true.
Go offer the Cardinals a second and a third round pick, and I think Marvin Harrison might be yours. So,
yeah, I that's what I would do. I do like the Jalen Tyson from the Cavs brother.
Jordan.
Yeah, he's
Jordan
pretty
Tyson.
good. I like Carnell Tate.
Yeah, Carnell Tate. Yep.
And those two, one of them needs to be a Cleveland Brown. And
Jordan Tyson or Carnell Tate.
That's right.
Is there a tackle you potentially have? I know it's. I mean, we're 5 months out from the draft, so I know I know I'm putting you on the spot. Roughly.
I know there's a kid from A&M.
Or 4 months, I should say.
And I can't think of his name. There's a kid from A&M, and A&M's historically had some pretty good tackles. Jake Matthews is one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Oh,
there is another. Oh, well, Luke Jokel was a top 2 pick. Didn't work out in the NFL, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's what I would do, and I don't know if I'll come off that opinion. There's obviously 5 months until we see what happens, and so much of it all depends on
off-season moves and who's in charge of the decisions and stuff like that.
And
correct.
Of course, what Jimmy's deciding now, which leads me to believe, I for some reason have a weird feeling that, and I don't know if I said this last week on the program. Regardless, I don't know why. I feel like they're going to make Kevin the fall guy, and I think Andrew's going to keep his job.
Robby, I actually want to ask you this because Jerome and I have talked about this. We at least touch on it once an episode, it feels like, about Barry, Stefanski. Are they going to be here? Are they not going to be here? Who would you rather have? What do you think is going to happen with them? What would you do with them?
What's funny is
two-part question.
I've done a complete 360 flip on this. Before this season kicked off, before we even drafted, I wanted Andrew Barry out the door, and I wanted to keep Kevin. I said, I bought into the people saying, you know what, Kevin took us to the playoffs twice, and, he's an offensive guru, and, this and that, and I did. And people said, when Kevin Stefanski gets fired, he'll be hired immediately. And I was like, you're right. We got to keep Kevin.
I still believe that, by the way.
I still believe he would, too.
Right.
I think the New York Giants would be all over him.
So do I.
But, I came around to the point that, just because a coach is fired and immediately hired does not mean a thing. Coaches in the NFL and every league just rotate. They don't hire new, fresh talent. So, that's not really too big of a miss if he gets hired somewhere else. That's just kind of the norm.
Well, I think a really good example of that, Robby, is Andy Reid. The thing that ended up being best for both those parties was to move on, the Eagles and Andy Reid. Andy Reid went on to win multiple Super Bowls with the Chiefs. Eagles have won multiple Super Bowls without Andy Reid. So sometimes it's just not a good fit.
But unfortunately, we're looking at the coaching pool this year, and it's not extravagant. Like it does not blow me away, the coaches that are going to become available, unless something insane happened with there was a team. I was listening to the radio today, and they said that there was a team the Ravens and John Harbaugh. Someone was like, "Do you think the Ravens are going to say that's enough? I'm tired of first round exits, or I'm tired of AFC championship exits and not making the playoffs. We got to start upgrading."
That is one that could be a surprise.
I would jump on that so fast. I would want that so bad, but. And then on the other side, I wanted Barry gone because I was like, Kevin can only coach what he's given. Andrew Barry's put together a terrible team, and now I'm kind of in the team of he had an amazing draft. Is he a great talent evaluator, or is it just that he finally had first round picks to play with? That's kind of where I'm nervous. Like if we give him another draft and he blows this next one, maybe.
Let's be honest. The team he built this year, we're seeing it week in and week out right now. He built it with no depth.
Right.
Once you got past your starting 22, it's not. There's nobody there,
and we're still restricted by the cap. So if Barry nails another draft, we're still going to be bargain hunting for depth. So that's also the unfortunate part.
They have
and it's
zero
also
depth.
Andrew Barry's fault that we're going to continue to be in cap hell because you keep pushing this money out instead of just eating it up front.
That's kind of why I say I would probably now lean towards keep Barry, move on from Kevin. When I saw the Browns at their own 1 yard line and 12 men came in the huddle and Shador had the wrong wristband, I said, this guy has, and it cuts to Kevin on the sideline and he's making the same face he makes in his press releases. He has no emotion. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
I truly feel like the writing is on the wall. He does not look like he cares, and the team doesn't look like they care to play for him. So I think we got to move on from Kevin.
That's the thing that I pointed out on last week's podcast. And listen, it's true. That team played for him up until the Chicago game. They decided, hey, it's time to start cashing checks and quitting. And most of them have. And I think the Buffalo game, but then on the contrary, they played hard in the Buffalo game. They lost to a team that's projected by many to go to the Super Bowl by 3 effing points.
Buffalo also does like to play down to their competition. I've seen many Bills games where they lose or split by a team
I
they
feel
should
like the
blow
Browns
out.
also just play up to their competition a lot as well.
We beat the Packers this year.
Yeah, well,
sometimes
exactly.
we just pull the rabbit out of the hat.
We pull the rabbit out of the hat. I love that saying. I use it a lot.
So
heard that on the CSR.
That's where it is. Anything else on these two? Andrew, Kevin?
No, I just think I'm still in kind of that purgatory state with both of them because part of me, same with you, Robby, like 2-time coach of the year, has led us to the playoffs twice, won a playoff game in a place that we have, granted, no fans, an extremely hard time playing in that stadium historically. So, and then there's Andrew Barry, who, if you actually do a deep dive into his draft classes, they're not as bad as they originally come off. I think they just come off that bad because of what you had mentioned with not having the 3 first-round picks from 2022 to 2024.
But it's his own fault.
But precisely, yes, it's his own fault. And Andrew Berry, they keep saying, like, Mary Kay Cabot she's still on this train of if you give them their shot to pick their quarterback. Listen, they had their freaking shot to pick their quarterback. They mortgaged 5 to 10 years of the Browns' future to go after a serial predator, and that was who they decided to have as their quarterback, and it didn't work. So when there's other GMs who they just spend one draft pick on a quarterback and they're fired in 2 years because it didn't work out, why are these chances like never ending for this regime? That I don't get. And yes, I know Andrew Berry is coming off a fantastic draft, and he did what a lot of people did not want him to do, although I did want them to do it, and that was to trade down from 2 to 5, get the extra draft capital, spend it on a position of need and a position that, honestly, like, yeah, he doesn't, like Mason Graham, defensive tackle, they don't stat pad. They don't get the stats, but why the hell do you think Myles Garrett's about to break this damn sack record? It's because he finally has interior help that has a lot of people focusing on him. So Myles Garrett sees a lot of one-on-ones. He hasn't these last couple weeks because everyone knows what he's gunning for, but that's why he's in the position that he is right now, is because he finally has that interior help. And then he hits on the 2 second-round picks. He hits on Harold Fannin. He has a dud in Dylan Gabriel. Whatever. You're going to have a dud of draft. I can live with it. Dylan Sampson looks like a great rotational running back. And then obviously Shedeur Sanders. We're going to look back on this draft in 20 years, whether Shedeur Sanders ends up being a franchise guy or not, and we are going to be talking about this draft. And we're going to be talking about Shedeur Sanders just because, yeah, and can you believe we capped that draft off with Deion Sanders' son? Right. Regardless of how this happens. Right. That's what we're going to be looking at this draft and talking about. So, yeah, Andrew Berry, I mean, he did do a very good job of trying to rebuild that image that he had in this city with this draft class, but that still doesn't excuse the horrible John Johnson signing, the Juan Thornhill signing.
Yeah.
But he also had the good Zadarius Smith trade. Both Amari Cooper trades worked out in our benefit. The Jerry Jeudy trade, for what we gave up for him, he had a great Pro Bowl year for us. Now he sucks. I think he's probably not going to be here next year. I'll call that a wash. So Andrew Berry's been very
Malik Collins signing this year. You want to talk about Mason Graham? Why do you think Mason Graham was so good? Look who the hell was playing next to him. Well, and now look at the team without Malik Collins. They stink on defense.
Yeah, they're bad at running the football right now. But again, Andrew Berry drafted Isaiah McGuire and Alex Wright as well, who have both done a very good job of rotating at that other defensive end spot. Drafted JOK. God forbid that injury. But Martin Emerson Jr., 3rd-round pick, starting cornerback. Like, he has hit on some of these draft picks.
Right.
And you know what's so funny about Andrew Berry, for how bad he has been at drafting receivers? The best receiver he drafted was a 6th-rounder by the name of Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah. And Cedric Tillman's not as good as he is. Anthony Schwartz isn't as good as he is. David Bell isn't as good as he is. And we let him walk right out the door. And he's literally a perfect number 3 receiver on any football team.
And they traded him away.
So, and then there's Kevin Stefanski, who, I've been talking about the great ups and the great downs with this regime, and I still have yet to make up my mind. The Browns organization will make up their mind. My gut's telling me that they're going to be back just based off of the draft class that Andrew Berry had, and based off of Kevin Stefanski still having 2 Coach of the Years under his belt within the last 5 years. So I gun to my head, I'm saying that they're going to be back.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that may be true. It's getting really hard. And if I was the Haslams, if I was D and Jimmy and JW and the whole shebang, I think it is really hard to ignore 6 and 26. I don't care who the quarterback is, who the this is, who the that is. That's terrible.
They ignored 1 and 31.
They did.
But they also weren't building a brand new stadium during that time. How are you going to fill a new stadium with new expensive PSLs when you're 6 and 26?
I brought that point up.
Well, they've got 4 years before that, 4 to 5
years.
Yeah,
but all the marketing of that starts now, and I think that's a very valid point. I also think your point of 1 and 31 is very valid, because I don't know anybody who would have brought those guys back, and they did. Like Hewitt. They did. I guess they did get rid of Sushi Brown, but they brought Hugh Jackson back for some unknown reason, and then shit canned him 3 weeks later.
5-6 games later.
So I don't know what they're doing. And also, the one thing you could say about the Haslam ownership is it's completely unpredictable, right? Because, they fired Chud after 4 and 12 1 year, he was gone. And they fired Joe Banner after 1 year as the president of football ops, he was gone. They fired Freddie after 1 year, he was gone. Dorsey after 2 years, they were gone. they kept Hugh Jackson for an eternity for him to win 3 out of 39 football games he coached here. Like, so who they keep and who they don't, there's no real rhyme or reason besides the fact of, like, I guess Jimmy has feelings positive about certain guys. And I know, to your point, Kevin, I know from working there and spending time, like, Jimmy Haslam loves those two, like, sons. Like, he really loves both of them a lot.
That's what I've heard. That's why I think that they're going to run it back.
And I just think it's hard to ignore. And also, something that we started the whole Browns segment with, like, they are a very prideful organization. They have a prideful past. You know, pre-1999, they were a damn good team year in and year out. Like, your stadium, 2 of the last 3 home games has been taken over by visiting fan bases. Like, I was not at the Bills game, but I can only speak to what you and everybody else, all my regulars who go down there know that was the first game I missed this year. So you went from 45% San Francisco fans to Tennessee doesn't have many fans to begin with, to playing in front of an empty stadium, to playing in front of a full stadium because it was Ralph Wilson West. That has to factor into it too. Like, you don't want that in your stadium.
Well, that last time,
I think that has a lot to do with. I mean, not a lot to do, all to do with where their record is right now.
No, I know. I agree with that. I'm saying though, but the fact that this many fans are basically waving their white flag, people are canceling their season tickets quicker than fat women are grabbing the Ozempic. Like, it all comes back and factors into it. And so that
is unbelievable.
So you're 6-26. They're at fault for that. They are at fault for this team being shit the last 2 years.
Sure.
So that basically what it's going to come down to is, in D and Jimmy's minds, does their love and belief that these guys are the right guys overcome the fact that the team's been a flat-out disaster for 2 straight seasons after they won 11 games the previous season?
Yeah.
So that's where we'll end.
Okay.
I mean, unless you guys got something else to say.
No, I mean, I think that's a valid point. I think the Haslams are so happy that over the last 6 years, they have not had to worry about doing a coaching search or a GM search or anything like that. And they have 2 guys in Barry and Stefanski who have openly admitted they work hand in hand with each other and they consult each other on just basically about everything. And they have an actual working partnership where a lot of the GMs and coaches that they've had in the past have not had that. I think just based off of that alone, I think that's going to play into their decision a lot. Based off of the structure that this organization had, the dysfunction that this organization had before these 2 got here. And yes, it is still dysfunctional, don't get me wrong. From what we see on the field and how some of these press conferences questions are answered, it still seems relatively dysfunctional, but not nearly dysfunctional as what they had seen from, 2010 to 2020? So,
well, they took it over in 2012.
Okay, 2012 to 2020. So, and that's not an excuse. Like, that's not. I'm just giving you a reason. Like, I'm not saying that's why I would keep them, and it's not a good reason to keep them. I just think that's going to be a reason that they do keep them.
Well, again, I think the stadium thing's a real thing. You have to be able to sell tickets, and when people are, I'm an idiot. I'll sign up again next year. I'll be there.
You can't do that without a franchise quarterback, by the way.
What?
Sell out tickets, sell out stadiums for the remainder of the year, which is why Mendoza will be here.
Okay, well, all right, whatever. I'm not going down that road right now. We're done with that.
He could not pan out, but if I see him get drafted by another team, I will actually be a little sad.
Yeah, same.
So you,
as of right now.
So yeah, again, people are fed up, and when you're only full stadium in the back half of the year is because Buffalo fans took it over. That's embarrassing as an owner. Like, in Tennessee, we were there. That place was maybe 50% full at the beginning of the game. Like,
maybe.
Like, and then the Niners game, it was more full than the Tennessee game because there was a lot of Niners fans. And like, the Ravens game was the last game this year that I was at personally. There were still majority Browns fans, and it was still above 75% full. And that was already a month ago. Like, your back half of your home games. And by the way, I'll be back on Sunday. there's going to be a lot of freaking rags waving in my face. They're going to all be here now because they're good again.
Yep.
Like, so, and that has to bother ownership. And then you look at those two and you're like, you're the reason I'm not making any money. Like, and that's where I think maybe it'll overcome Jimmy and he might just say, the hell with it. I'm getting rid of them both. And he wouldn't give the media a number, but he did say that he expected a better football team than last year. It very well may be the exact same record. They're not better. Are you a man of your word, Jimmy? They got to go. So.
Well said.
Where do you guys think they finish the year with 2 games to go?
I actually think they're going to win. I actually think they might win the Steelers game because I don't think it's going to matter for the Steelers. So I don't think Rodgers or any of these guys are going to play. And I think it would actually be hilarious. And I really, the media would love it. Boy, would it be a good story. If Myles Garrett breaks the record on Mason Rudolph, who would then come in because they're not going to play Rodgers.
That would be awesome.
That would be amazing.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I mean, that honestly does depend, though, on the Ravens game, which obviously the Ravens have the Packers this week in Lambeau.
On Saturday night.
So the Steelers will know by Sunday morning
what to do.
whether they need to play their starters or not, because they would lock up they basically have the 4 seed locked up at that point. They can't move up or down, correct?
Right. So I don't think,
but maybe they do play their starters for one more
the
game.
Ravens
so
can still
time,
take the AFC North from the Steelers, can't they?
If they lose, no.
if the Steelers
If they lose on Saturday,
right,
no.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the Steelers are still going to play all their stars and play hard because you want
yeah,
to.
Well, if the Ravens win, they will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ravens game Saturday night.
Okay.
They're going to
sense.
Lambeau.
I didn't know. I forgot they played before us.
But I also think, like, from the Steelers' point of view, if they can't move up or down, you don't think they want to give Aaron Rodgers, held together by some Gorilla Glue and duct tape, a game off? Yeah, they absolutely do. They need that guy for the stretch. Well, probably not. It's Mike Tomlin. They'll lose in the first round anyway. But regardless, point being, like, if they can give Aaron Rodgers a game off, they will. I think the Browns are going to win on Sunday. Pittsburgh has not won here, I believe, since 2021. The Browns seem to have some really crappy teams and piece it together here, and I envision that on Sunday. I think somehow, some way, they will win this game. And then the last game of the year, I think they'll lose. They're going to finish 4-13.
I don't like to say that I encourage the team to lose. I think that breeds a losing culture. But part of me, you'd be lying in the back of your head. You weren't like, I kind of hope they lose these last 2. Because truth be told, a higher pick is better than a worse pick, let's be honest, whether you're picking there or not. I think we're going to go out there and stumble into one of these wins, these last 2. I don't know how, I don't know which one, but they always seem to just kind of finish the year in a win that just doesn't really make sense. So I don't really know what to expect of these last 2 games. I really don't. You know, we're seeing a lot of players on the injury report all of a sudden. We're seeing a lot of guys that we haven't seen all year, like Rocket Sanders and that Henderson dude we picked up.
Rocket Sanders scored the first touchdown of the year for the Browns.
He did.
I think these last 2 games are going to be really weird. Like, I really don't know what to expect. I have nothing to even predict.
Yeah, so I'm actually opposite of Jerome on this one. I have a feeling they're going to lose on Sunday, and I feel like they're going to actually beat Cincinnati in the last week of the year. I don't think Cincinnati's going to have any inclination to play Joe Burrow in that game. Whether they do or not is completely up to them. You know, the Bengals aren't fighting for anything right now, and the Bengals have a horrendous defense as well. So I could see the Browns squeaking out the one in Cincinnati. I don't see them getting past Pittsburgh this Sunday, though, unfortunately. I've got Pittsburgh 24, Browns 16.
There's been a lot of games like that there. Like I said, though, I'm just going off recent history. The Steelers haven't been able to win here.
Well, we don't have DTR, so they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah, DTR, that was a great game-winning drive. Yeah. All right, well, congratulations to Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. They both made the Pro Bowl. Carson Schwarzenegger's an alternate. Quinshon Judkins is an alternate, not like he's going to play.
And a speedy recovery to you, Quinshon.
Yeah,
a great rookie year.
Yes.
Yeah, good job.
And luckily, no knee damage I saw. It's only the dislocated ankle and fractured fibula, so I read that he actually should be back up and walking in the next 4 to 5 months, and he should be ready by training camp, which is great.
Yeah, it still doesn't sound fun. I saw that.
No, obviously not.
He
but
posted a picture.
Silver lining.
Posted a picture today of him at UH Maine, with his mom. And, so hopefully that works out well for him. Obviously, the Browns need that. They need him. And Quinshon, great job. You ran behind a bunch of stinky linemen all year. Which, ironically, real quick, I it's ironic. Joel Bitonio, who's like on the precipice of retirement, is the only Browns lineman who's played every snap in every game this year. They put that on the telecast on Sunday. That's pretty remarkable. All right. Well, you can listen and find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube for your. You can watch it. Robby, thank you for being here. You can also follow the podcast at CLE Sports Realm on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And then, of course, we from all of us here at the CSR studio, we wish you a happy and healthy holiday season. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you before the new year, I believe, because this podcast will come out on Christmas Day.
Yeah, so this will come out. The following one will come out on New Year's Day. So
That's
it'll actually
right.
be this is the last episode of 2025.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you
honored.
for being here, Robby.
Yeah,
Make sure you play this podcast.
Thanks, Derek, for being here for each and every one of these 60 episodes. Happy belated birthday to you as well. And then, of course, thanks to the listeners who's been with us all year. Again, from our staff and family to yours, we wish you a happy and holiday, Merry Christmas, and a happy and holiday healthy season. Have a great night, everybody. And go Browns. And remember, Shador's the guy.
Go Browns.